Hi, this is Don Crowther. In this video, I'm going to talk about the process of configuring Google Analytics for WordPress. And the reason we're doing this is that you have a choice. You can have the amazing power of Google Analytics, a free tool that has incredible amounts of data that it gives to you. And very frankly, there are some things that you can get out of Google Analytics you cannot get out of any other analytics tool. Now, there's some other things that other analytics tools will give you that Google Analytics doesn't. But there are certain things that you can only get out of Google Analytics. You want to have Google Analytics on your blog. So you can have Google Analytics and all that amazing free power, or you can have all that data plus you can supercharge Google Analytics and get a bunch of additional incredibly valuable data for your blog and for WordPress and the way WordPress is used on your blog. And so this particular video assumes that you have WordPress installed, that you've installed the Google Analytics for WordPress, the one by Devulk, and sorry, probably massacred your name, installed as a plugin on your blog. Then after you've done that, what it does is it gives you this little line that says Google Analytics is not active. You must select which profile you want to use. And so then you've gone through that process of creating a Google Analytics profile to track, and that you've authenticated that. Now, if you have not done this, or you're clueless in looking at this and saying, I don't know what you're talking about, go back and watch this video, which is here in this same profile, called Google Analytics for WordPress, the installation guide, where I walk you through step by step how to do exactly what I just talked about. Now, let's go on and talk about how to configure it so that you turn this into a supercharged Google Analytics. All right, how we do this. First off, you log into your WordPress blog. You look at the dashboard, which is over there on the left-hand side. You drop down to plugins, and you click that. When you click that, what it does is it brings up your plugin screen, and you should see somewhere on there, because you can have lots of different plugins installed. You're going to see this Google Analytics for WordPress, and then you're going to click on Settings. When you click on Settings, it will bring up your settings for Google Analytics for WordPress. If you see a big blue button right here in the middle, you've not yet authenticated, and you're going to need to go through that process. That's covered in that other video I talked about. And so what you should be seeing is you should be seeing at least a profile, possibly an account and a profile, that something's filled in here. And so that means you've done this process. Now below this, there are some other settings that you can make. Let's go down and look at those. So you can choose where you want it to be placed. This is the actual code for Google Analytics. I recommend you leave it at the default in the header. I recommend you leave this one checked. Here's the important one. This next box of Show Advanced Settings is unchecked by default. Now at this point, you can just stop and not bother to supercharge your Google Analytics. But what I recommend is that you check that box. And that's what this video is about, is what happens when you check that box. So when you check it, you will see a bunch of other settings. This first batch is called the custom variable settings. This is where it gets really, really cool. And so what I want to do is I want to talk you through each one of these settings, what they mean, and what the data will show you when you choose to check them. Now, what's important here is that you have a number of different settings that you can choose. You can only choose 5. And so you got to choose against at least 2 of these. So let's walk through what's there, and so you can make that decision and decide what you're going to choose and what you're not. And by the way, I would recommend that you choose 5. Choose the ones that you think are going to be most valuable, even if you're not using those functions yet. That way you'll have the data later on when you want it. Okay. All right, so the custom variable settings show additional data not available otherwise in your Google Analytics report. As far as I know, this is the only Google Analytics plugin right at this moment that allows you access to these. That's the reason I like this particular plugin. All right, the first custom variable setting is called logged in users. What this allows you to do is to be able to see by the people who log in. So if you're the only person who ever logs into your account, you'll be able to see, okay, here's where I tend to go, and you're an administrator, for example. But let's say you've got editors and writers and different functions. You'll be able to see where each one of those people goes. Or You can also use this as a filtering mechanism in Google Analytics to be able to filter out any of those people. Now, in a moment, I'm going to show you a different way of filtering them out. I actually would most of the time recommend you not check this one, and that you use the advanced settings for filtering those out, which I will show you in a moment. Why? Because I don't want to get confused thinking I have a whole bunch more traffic than I actually do when much that traffic is coming from my staff or from people who are writing on the blog. And so I like to just make them all totally go away. That's in the advanced settings. I'll show you that in a moment. Or you can check this, which will allow you to be able to get to them. Next is post type. Remember, in WordPress, you have the ability to do a regular blog post, or you can do pages. Now, pages are specifically designed for things like your privacy policy, your contact us form, maybe your about us, maybe to sell something, something like that. So they don't go into your normal flow of blog posts, and so they don't flow off the page when there's a lot of them, those kinds of things. Posts are your regular blog posts, where most of your posts to your blog are going to be posts. But you may also have pages. And by the way, you can build whole sites just using the pages function of WordPress and never even bother to do a blog post. That's totally an option too. By checking the post type, you're able then to to call out whether the traffic to your pages versus your post, and you'll be able to look at those. I actually like this because I use lots of pages in my site in the way I do things. So that's a good one. Next is the author name. Now, if you're the only author on your blog, you don't need to change this. But if you have multiple people who have their own logins who can come in and write posts on your blog, this author name can be very, very valuable. Why? Because let's say you've got 5 people on your staff, and each one of them writes an article a week, something like that, and put them into your blog. By having this checked, you'll be able to go and see which one of those authors is generating the most traffic to your blog. Wouldn't that be interesting to know? And maybe you could even do something where you incentivize your different authors so that the one who gets the most traffic, or the one who gets the most results from it, sales, opt-ins, whatever it is, because you can use these as filters also, you can then give them an extra bonus. And so this authors, if you have multiple authors, can be incredibly valuable. If you only have you writing, then I wouldn't bother to check them. And by the way, these can be changed later on, but realize that data starts accumulating when you make the change. Next is tags. Tags are something that most bloggers I've found ignore. Over in the left-hand side of your screen, when you're doing a post, there is this little section called Post Tags. Now, most people ignore it, but you want to, on every blog post, go in and add some tags. What that does is enable you to be able to get more search terms than just categories, so that people can find your blog posts around other things other than just categories. And by checking the box for tags, then you can go see how many people how many visitors you've had to pages that have had tags that are about dogs, or whatever it is, that particular tag. Next is the publication year. So this can be very, very interesting. One of the things I've discovered is that when I write evergreen posts that don't go away, that are useful over time, that I oftentimes see that those that make it into the search engines and do well in the search engines actually build in traffic over time. Well, that's a very, very easy thing to figure out if you have the publication year checked and you're able to start tracking that kind of traffic. So it's an interesting little piece. Obviously, if you've only been blogging for a month or two, you may not want to select that at this particular moment. Next is single category. So these next two, single category and all categories, you do want to check one of these two. If you are a person who writes a blog post and you only put it into one category, check the top one, single category. If you're like me and I can never decide which category to put things in, so I put them in 3 or 4, you'll want to check the bottom one. Now, the bottom one will never give you as good of results as the single category because posts are in different categories. But either one of those is, you should check one of those because it will give you valuable information. Now remember, so that's the list. Remember, you can only select 5 of these. Now I bet you're wondering, how do I access this data? Well, here's the way you do it. In Google Analytics, you go and you select the visitors link in the link bar on the left hand side, and then that will open up, and then you select custom variables, and each of these custom variables that I've shown you that you've checked will be available in that. Obviously it won't be available the first day because it always takes a day to accumulate the data, so it'll start showing up tomorrow, but you'll be able to see that, and I'll do a video in the future that will show you some of these custom variables and how you can use them to build your business. So that's the custom variables section. Next is the advanced settings. Now most people shouldn't change any of these settings. The average user shouldn't change any of them except 2 of them. Here's the first one I recommend that you check, and that is ignore users. Remember when I talked about the level of users, the logins before? What this enables you to do is to be able to say, all right, anytime anyone comes to my site who is logged in, so an administrator, a writer, an editor, anyone like that, I just want to ignore their data completely. And so you can choose which level you want to ignore, and you ignore everything above that level. So my recommendation, because you don't want to start making decisions based upon what your staff is doing, you want to base it upon what other people who are coming to your blog are doing, is to select this bottom one in the list, which is subscriber, which ignores all logged in users. So what that means is nobody who's logged in will have any of their traffic tracked on your blog, and I believe that's a good thing in the end. Okay, by the way, you also, if you don't want to check this, you can also filter them out if you select the logged in users in custom variables. So if you do that, you can set up filters in Google Analytics to be able to do that. It's a little more complex, and I believe it potentially fouls up my data, so I just select this subscriber, which ignores all logged in users. The other one I would recommend that you do is that you track AdSense. So AdSense is assuming that you have Google's program called AdSense, which allows you to be able to run ads on your site and make money from the traffic that comes there. And so if you have Google AdSense running on your blog, and if you've connected your analytics and AdSense accounts, and that's a totally separate video, if you've done that connection and you're running them, then you want to check this box. Don't bother to check it if either one of those 2 is not true at this particular point in time. You can come back and check that when you get there. So if you're just getting started, you're not ready to put AdSense up, don't worry about it. Don't put it on. Come back and check this box later on. Now, there are some other advanced settings. You may want to experiment with other settings as you get more advanced or as you need them. The power is there to track other things, just most people won't ever actually need them. So guess what? You're done. Check those things, click the save button, and you're done. But here's the key. You got to ignore everything till tomorrow, because Google Analytics is always a day in the past, and so you won't see any data until tomorrow. And so what I suggest you do is tomorrow go log into Google Analytics and see how many people came to your site yesterday, and lots of other cool analytics that are there. Remember, if you're the only one who visits your blog and you choose to ignore users in the advanced settings, you won't see any traffic. That doesn't mean that Google Analytics is broken. It just means you won't see any traffic. So get some other people to come to your blog, and then you'll be able to see what they're doing. Now, next steps. There's 2 key next steps. The first one, donate to Mr. DeVault. If you go into that plugin, there's a place where you can donate to him. I suggest you do it. He's going to make you money if you do this and if you use it appropriately. And then start learning and playing with Google Analytics so you can gain full advantage from this powerful free program. Get it installed, get it configured, and start experimenting with it and looking around, and pretty soon you'll find the gold mine that exists in Google Analytics. This is Don Crowther. Just go do this stuff. Hi, this is Don again with a special offer for you. If you would like to get more free social media and internet marketing tips just like this, visit www.doncrowther.com and sign up for the free newsletter there. I'll send you a ton of great free social media and internet marketing tips. That's www.doncrowther.com. Just go do this stuff.